Hello everyone. Today I just thought I'd have a chat with you about the things that I've come across on the internet this week. Some of them are quite shocking. For example, I watched a video the other day about a couple in America. They have their entire family on their channel, but apparently in America, in California, they have a law now that says if you have all of your children on your channel and you are making, apparently they are making hundreds of thousands of dollars on these channels, unlike my own, then they have to set aside a proportion of those earnings for their children because they are often used as content, which frankly I think is fair. The children don't really have much choice in being on the channel because they have to behave themselves and do what their parents want, don't they? So they get roped into everything and it becomes their way of life right from birth, which is extraordinary really when you think about it. I would hate to think that all of my growing up would have been witnessed by everybody forever. But these parents, rather than set up the accounts for their children, are moving state. Now, if that doesn't give you a hint of what they are doing and why they are doing it, then nothing will. Another couple were going to adopt, this is in America again, another couple were going to adopt a little baby from Thailand. And they documented this adoption process on their channel, obviously, and how they were going to adopt this baby. And then the Thai authorities told them that they wouldn't be allowed to put that child on their channel for a year. Guess what they did? Go on, I'll give you 3 guesses. They cancelled the adoption. They cancelled the adoption, I presume, because they could no longer think about adding their child to their family and using that child as content. I suspect the mother didn't want to have another baby of their own. So they probably thought, oh, well, let's just get one ready-made and use it. Because otherwise they would have carried on. They would have said, that's not a problem, we'll carry on and we will adopt the baby if it was doing it for altruistic reasons. But clearly it wasn't. I mean, isn't that just awful to think that a couple would do that? I think it is anyway. I think people can be incredibly disappointing, can't they? When they're just using their children as content creation. The other thing was that I watched another video where a young mother and her little daughter were making TikTok dancing videos. I think that was during lockdown, just for fun. And do you know, I can imagine doing that, perhaps with Lily. Well, actually, no, I can't. I can't actually imagine me doing a dance on TikTok. But, you know, I can imagine if I was young, say 40 years younger, I might have got into that. But they started growing massively, and their videos, their little dancing videos, were getting massive amounts of views. And when that mother, also they were getting a lot of comments, and some of the comments were quite disgusting. Oh, just so creepy. I saw a screenshot of one of them. Anyway, the mother decided to look at her analytics And she noticed that a good 90% of her viewers were men. Now that says it all, doesn't it? Why would men want to watch a little girl dancing with her mother? Honestly, if you're a man, I would imagine, a normal man, I would imagine you are ashamed of your own gender for that sort of behaviour alone. It really was quite disgusting. So I don't know whether she deleted her account. I think if it had been me, I certainly would have. You know, it's sometimes you want to add your children on there or your grandchildren, but I'm very fearful of vile people catching on, and, well, I don't need to say it, do I? This is just horrible. You know, I think this day and age, as much as I do love the internet, and it is a great resource if you're trying to research something, I think it has spoiled a lot of things for people. It has muddied the water for children. They're more liable to be bullied. I mean, don't get me wrong, bullying has always gone on. If it was a boarding school, then you were bullied, and it was generally other school children being bullies. But once you went home, they couldn't get hold of you. But these days, with Snapchat, and people who work at Snapchat say that would be the last app that they would allow their children to have on their telephones. Snapchat is apparently terrible. I've never had Snapchat, but, you know, listening to those people that worked online in offices say that they would never, ever, ever allow their own children to have Snapchat. That has to say something, doesn't it? I think it's such a worry. And I know I can't do anything as a grandparent to protect my grandchildren. And worrying is going to do no good at all. And I know my children are well versed at things going on the internet and how to protect the children. It still does worry me that something might get through and they will be harmed and bullied. Do you feel the same? Do you get worried about your grandchildren? Even though you can't do anything about it, you can't do anything at all except make them feel loved and valued. But do you find yourself thinking sometimes when you're watching the television like I do, I think, I am so glad that I am at this end of my life, and that I don't have to grow up in this day and age, because I think it's far scarier than it was when I was growing up in the 1960s. You know, girls are under so much pressure to look a certain way. There is so much pressure that you wonder how they get on at school, and you worry that they are happy and they're not being bullied. But you never know, do you? As much as getting older brings with it benefits, like you have your own opinion and you're not afraid to say it, you feel much more emancipated. My favourite saying is, I haven't got to 68 without having an opinion. Or, I haven't got to 68 to allow somebody else to have control over me. Mind you, I got to 44 and a lot of people had control over me, but then I changed. But, you know, I often sit there and think, gosh, you know, I'm so glad that I'm at this end in the autumn of my life, and that I haven't got small children to bring up because that is a worry. Now all I've got to worry about is if my voice is going to give up. Having said that, this morning I did notice it was still a bit croaky, so I upped my voice, my stimulator again, and that did leave me feeling a little bit wobbly. And it also, I've noticed when I turn that stimulator up, my diction isn't so good. I found it more difficult to talk. Now that does sound rather odd, but it does make me feel like I do find it more difficult to articulate words. So I am having to be very definite about what I'm saying to you, because otherwise I'll come over as a raving lunatic and you'll just switch off and unsubscribe in your droves, and frankly, I wouldn't blame you at all. That said, I am making this video. I'm going to edit it at some point, and then what I'm really trying to do is put out more content, because after those three or 4 weeks of the cancer scare and then the voice problem and no voice, and I bought that tube that I spoke to you about in another video that probably I haven't put out yet. But I bought this tube to practice improving my voice. And you stick it in a glass of water and you blow and you say these noises. You sing or you make those notes. What I have noticed is that in the lower ranges I am better, but when I get up to a certain point, my voice completely disappears. I mean, nothing, no squeak, but nothing, which is extraordinary. So I am pleased that I am able now to talk because I've turned my stimulator up, but by no means have I stopped the spasmodic dysphonia. It is still there, the same as the tremors are still there. If I have to turn it off or lower it quite low for whatever reason, then I will be shaking like this and I won't have a voice. And when I go to have an MRI scan, then that will be the same. I won't have a voice again and I will be shaking like a cocktail shaker person. But at least I found something that gives me a voice, and I can't tell you how happy I am about that. That said, I am going to continue with these voice exercises because apparently people who sing use them to improve their voices. And I did used to sing and enjoy it. And now I think I need to exercise the muscles in my throat to enable me to not only speak properly, but also to keep up the progress of my voice when I speak. Interesting, isn't it? It happens, I think losing your voice as you get older is quite a common thing, even if it's just your singing voice. I think what we need to realise is that muscle tone, when you're older, does affect everybody. Even if you don't have spasmodic dysphonia, it does affect everybody. That's why when you're listening to old rock stars, when they're singing, you think, oh God, you should have given up years ago, mate. Stop it. But they don't, do they? They still believe that they can sing properly. But it's croaky and an uncomfortable listen. Anyway, I thought I'd keep this video short. If you've watched anything that has shocked you this week on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know what you've been watching. Because sometimes I think if we don't take any notice of these things, they just go by, don't they? And nobody talks about them. But I think the possible parents of that baby that was going to be adopted in Thailand need to get a hold of themselves and rethink their morals and their moral code for living, because I find that pretty I find that absolutely disgusting. I don't know about you. Anyway, if you have been, thanks for watching. Lots of love. Bye-bye.